The rain that night fell softly, as if the sky itself was trying not to make a sound. At the end of a narrow street stood an old house, its walls stained by time and silence. Inside that house, near a small window, sat a young man named Ahmed, staring into the darkness outside. There was no sleep in his eyes, only memories and questions that refused to fade. Ahmed was 22 years old, yet his face carried a seriousness far beyond his age. He was not quiet by nature. Life had taught him silence. People often described him as calm and reserved, but none of them knew how loud his thoughts were when the world around him went quiet. The reason for that silence was his father. Noman Ahmed was an honest man in a world that rewarded dishonesty. He worked as an accounts officer in a government department, known for his integrity and refusal to compromise. He used to tell Ahmed that a man's true wealth was his conscience, not his bank balance. Even with a modest salary, Noman lived with dignity and peace. Then one day, everything changed. Noman returned home from work unusually quiet. While sitting at the dinner table, he looked at his son and said in a low voice, "Son, the time may come when telling the truth will cost us everything." Ahmed did not fully understand those words then, but they stayed with him. A few days later, accusations spread like wildfire. Noman Ahmed was accused of financial corruption. Files disappeared, records were altered, and blame was placed on the one man who had refused to sign false documents. Without a proper investigation, he was suspended and then dismissed. Colleagues avoided him. Neighbors whispered. Relatives distanced themselves. The house that once echoed with simple laughter became unbearably quiet. Noman tried to defend himself, but no one wanted the truth. Truth was inconvenient. Months later, Noman suffered a fatal heart attack. Doctors said it was stress. Ahmed knew. It wasn't justice. That day, something broke inside the family. Ahmed's mother stopped smiling, and Ahmed stopped dreaming. Life moved forward, but only on the surface. Inside, everything was frozen. Time passed slowly, until one ordinary afternoon changed everything. Ahmed was cleaning the old wooden cupboard in his room when he noticed a small, dust-covered notebook hidden in the lowest drawer. Its cover was plain and worn, with no title. The moment he touched it, his heart tightened. He opened the first page. If you are reading this, it means I could not speak the truth myself. These words are my witness. The handwriting was unmistakable. It was his father's. Tears filled Ahmed's eyes as the diary became part of his nights. Every page revealed a truth that had been buried. Noman had written about forged bills, illegal transfers, and pressure from senior officials to approve false accounts. One name appeared again and again. Cameron Malik, a powerful businessman, respected, influential, a man praised in newspapers and invited to charity events. The same man who had once been a senior officer in Noman's department. In one entry, Noman had written, "I could have stayed silent and D lived comfortably, but then what would I have taught my son?" That single line shook Ahmed to his core. He now stood at a crossroads. He could remain silent and live a safe, quiet life, or he could bring the truth to light and risk everything. Silence was easier, but it felt like betrayal. For many nights, Ahmed lay awake, listening to the sound of rain and remembering his father's tired eyes. Fear haunted him, but guilt haunted him more. Finally, he made a decision. Using a false name, Ahmed created an online blog. He called it the Silent Diary. Without revealing his identity, he began publishing parts of his father's writings. No photos, no names at first, just truth. At first, only a few people read it. Then more. Readers commented, sharing their own experiences of injustice. The posts were shared. Screenshots spread across social media. What began as a whisper slowly turned into a voice. Cameron Malik noticed. One night, Ahmed received a call from an unknown number. The voice on the other end was cold and controlled. "Stop writing, or you will regret it." Ahmed's hands trembled, but he ended the call without responding. The next morning, his mother looked at him quietly and said, Those who speak the truth often stand alone. Ahmed replied, "My father stood alone too, but he was never wrong." Soon, a journalist reached out. He asked for proof. Ahmed handed over the diary, old documents, and saved records. Investigations began. News channels picked up the story. Questions were asked that could no longer be ignored. The case was reopened. Weeks later, Cameron Malik was arrested. Standing outside the courthouse, Ahmed felt something he had not felt in years: peace. He looked up at the sky and whispered, "You were right, Dad. Truth never loses. It only waits." That night, Ahmed returned home and placed the diary back in the cupboard. On the final page, he wrote his own words: "Silence is only beautiful when the truth is alive." And for the first time, silence no longer felt heavy.